Hey everybody, welcome back to the lunchroom. I'm your host Chris, and today we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, let's just get right into this week of the NFL. NFL Week 6 is now wrapped up in the books, and we're gonna start with this Thursday night game, Eagles Giants. All of us Giants fans out there, we're very, very happy with how this game went out. Absolutely put belt to ass on that Eagles team. Honestly, if I am a Philly fan, shout out Mark Lepresti, I'm not happy with this game. I'd be worried about the rest of the season because that offense looked terrible. This Giants team has not been very good overall throughout the course of the year, but I mean, to get absolutely spanked like it's like Jalen Hurts' decision making looked terrible. Like Saquon has not looked great all season. Actually, he's on course right now to not even hit 100 rushing yards on the season. Like, he's not even on course to hit that. And Saquon rushed for over 200 yards last year. And honestly, the biggest part of this, of like the Eagles as a whole, like, it's never been the passing game. It's, Jalen Hurts not known for throwing the football. The biggest part of this team really and this offense has been, their rushing game. And their rushing game has not looked as good as it did last year. Absolutely looks, and that's to be expected. It's hard to put up that insane of a season, like numbers wise, a second year in a row, especially for an aging running back. But, for this Eagles team to kind of compete the same way they did last year and be able to have a chance at another Super Bowl, it definitely depends heavily on on their run game, and their run game has not looked very good. It got Saquon got absolutely shut out he only had 58 yards on 12 carries. Only averaged 4.8 yards per run, which is not terrible by any means, but you know like he's not getting a lot of those like breakaway plays that he did last year. When your longest rushing yards is an 18-yard run, which isn't happening all too often. It definitely hurts the team's ability to compete at that level again. But man, you know what? Forget the Eagles for a second because we got to talk about these New York rookies, man. More specifically, Cam Scatterboo and Jackson Dart had a freaking night. Oh my goodness. Like, to start off, Cam Scatterboo, absolute dog. 98 yards rushing, 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Absolutely insane. He did whatever the hell he wanted on this Eagles defense. Now, granted, no Jalen Carter on this. They had some other people out, but man, he looked absolutely dominant. There were a couple plays in this game where Scatterboo, is just trucking over grown men. Like, Scatterboo is insane. Like, I think now a lot of people have seen the clip of him in college, kind of just like his team's getting ready to come out and he's just banging his head on the wall. Cam Scatterboo definitely used to be one of those kids that ate crayons. Like, he 100% was one of those. Straight nothing going on up there. But he's an absolute dog, bro. Cam Scatterboo, dog. You know who else is a dog? Jackson freaking Dart, bro. Jackson Dart is an insane beast, bro. Oh my goodness. This is exactly what you wanted from this rookie, coming into this. This is why people were hyped for him, man. 195 yards through the air. He did throw for a touchdown early in the game. He also rushed for one too. So, he could hit the Jets too. He had 58 rushing yards himself, which I will say, the way that he likes to run the ball is not sustainable at all. He's going to have to learn how to, run a little better, and especially slide, because he takes some hits. There was one point in the game where it looked like he took a pretty bad hit, and I swear the entire Giants offense was parked outside the middle. Again, Brian Dable outside the medical tent. Cam Scatterboo came in to check up on him at one point. Everyone wondering if he's, going to be out for the game or going to be out sometime. If he has a concussion, obviously he can't play. And, in that moment, they did have to put in good old Russell Wilson, who, did absolutely nothing on his one attempt in his one handoff to Tyron Tracy. But, to Dart's credit, he came right back out there and, kid just kept playing hard. And the Giants, they end up pulling away this game 34-17. Again, on the backs of some pretty bad, plays from bad turnovers from the Eagles down the line. Obviously they had the one fumble and then the Jalen Hurts interception at the end, for that almost turned into a pick six. And, you know, it's crazy because, yeah, no, AJ Brown was very wide open on that play, and Jalen Hurts forced it to the sideline for absolutely no reason. If he gets Brown down towards the middle of the field, they probably score there. And we might be talking about a different outcome for this, but the decision making from him hasn't looked great. But still give you some good fantasy numbers even with the interception. So I mean, happens. But we'll move on to this week's game of the week, and this one might be a surprising one because these two teams are not really known for being all that great. Well, I mean, half of one of them is. But my pick this week for game of the week is Cowboys Panthers. This was a fun one. This is a very big fun one. I mean, listen, it is funny because these teams probably have more exciting offenses. Neither team has a great defense at all. Their secondary suck. They all suck. We know that. The Cowboys this year are basically what last year's Bengals team was. A great offense with a lot of good weapons and a good quarterback, and just absolutely no defensive presence at all. Like, teams are absolutely scoring all over them. And exactly what the Panthers did. This was also the Rico Dowdle revenge game. So, we got to see him because, again, no Chuba Hubbard this week. So, Dowdle got to be the starter. And, man, did he ball out again. 183 yards rushing on 30 carries is absolute insanity. He's basically their entire offense because Bryce Young cannot throw the football. He did have an interception in this game. He did also have 3 touchdowns. If you're a Tedero McMillan fantasy owner, you are a little happier this week because while he only had 3 receptions for 29 yards, he did get in the end zone finally for 2 touchdowns. So that's awesome. Rico Dowdle also got in the end zone for a receiving touchdown. 56 receiving yards from him. We'll bring it up when we mention fantasy flames and flops, but he was amazing in this game. Honestly, if I'm Chuba Hubbard, I'm a little bit concerned because what do you do when he comes back? Like, because you can't just bench Dowd after the insane run that he's had. Granted, again, he's playing against some pretty bad defenses, but I mean, he looks absolutely terrific out there. Another 200 yards combined from him today, this week. So, he's looked fantastic. Dak Prescott continues to put up almost an MVP caliber season, 261 yards from him, 3 touchdowns. Javonte Williams was not that great this week. He's probably, of the Cowboys offense, he's probably the one who did not play the greatest in this game. Most of the other players for the Cowboys did do pretty well. And fun fact, I don't know how many people know this, but the Cowboys actually, if you look at the Cowboys' main offensive players, all of them are like top 5 right now in fantasy PPR leagues. Like Dak's a top 5 quarterback. Javonte Williams is a top 5 running back. Jake Ferguson has been the tight end 1 for most of the season. George Pickens has been the wide receiver 5 for most of the year without CeeDee Lamb. So, which CD should be coming back this week. It's expected. He did practice Wednesday, so limited practice, but he's getting back on the field. So, if he's been sitting in your IR, there's something to be hopeful for. And that includes me because he's sitting in 2 IRs for me right now. So, yeah, but George Pickens, 168 yards. This game was insane. This game was amazing to watch. Again, Rico Dowdle just ran all over this Dallas secondary. George Pickens again is just it's amazing. Well, what he's been able to do, especially with a much better quarterback in Dak Prescott compared to his years in Pittsburgh. But yeah, they like the Cowboys fall to just 2-3 with the 1 tie, and we have the Carolina Panthers. Now 3-3. They're starting to get a bit hot. So. Carolina, if you're one of the 5 people that, root for the Panthers, you have something to look forward to. You still got a young, star receiver in McMillan. Dowd's playing absolutely out of his mind. Yeah, this game was insane. Great last drive by the Panthers to ice this 30-27. Yeah, that's my pick for game of the week. And moving on to the fantasy flames and flops. Obviously, we already talked about Rico Dowell. 33.9 fantasy points this week. He surpassed what he did last week. And this time, I did not forget to put him in my lineup. He was in there, was not sitting on my bench again. So very important for that win, especially considering a lot of the flops, especially at running back that happened this week. So another person to mention, Drake May. He finished as, I'm pretty sure, the quarterback 2 on the week. 2-4 fantasy points. He's had a terrific year. Drake May has looked amazing, especially with the Bills lost to the Falcons this week on Monday Night Football. The Patriots are sitting on top of the AFC East right now, which, we'll get to when we talk about some of the playoff stuff. But yeah, they're looking great. And, it might be unfair for some people so soon after Brady left the team and stuff. But, Drake May's been amazing. He's a guaranteed 200 yards. 3 touchdown passes. He had 3 touchdown passes in just the first half. 28 rushing. Another flame this week. Last one I'm gonna mention. Bijan Robinson has been absolutely insane. He I think is the best running back right now in the NFL by a mile. I would have taken him first overall in fantasy football had I had the number 1 overall pick. But he put up 35.8 fantasy points, 170 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown, and 68 receiving yards with 6 receptions. Like he is like he reminds me a lot of like the upside with McCaffrey. He doesn't get as much receiving volume as McCaffrey does because McCaffrey's basically just is playing everything. Like if I were to like kind of explain to people the type of like how impactful McCaffrey is to the Niners, I would probably say he's a lot like a LeBron where he kind of just does everything. But Bijan takes a lot of the receiving work along with being like their workhorse back. And he's just amazing at it. Like broke off for an absolutely his rushing touchdown, absolutely insane play. Over 60 rushing yards for that touchdown. He part of the reason why they absolutely spanked the Bills, besides the Bills just making terrible mistakes. But yeah, to get into the fantasy flops, man, there's a lot of options for this week. Quinshon Judkins, after looking really good, like he was going to be a top 10, running back on the year, only puts up 3.6 fantasy points, and I had just traded an absolute haul for him, which didn't end up mattering because I still won the week very convincingly. But James Cook back on here for the second week in a row with just 8.7 points. Didn't get in the end zone. 87 yards. Again, that entire Bills team has been struggling a whole lot. And, him and Allen have been the sweet spots there, but not too great for him. And personally, my biggest flop of the week, after looking through all of it, has got to be Jahmyr Gibbs. There were a lot of contenders for this. Saquon is definitely up there. He also, did not have a great day. But Gibbs, who's been a very good running back in fantasy, definitely, if people did redrafts today, would still probably be a top 5 pick in fantasy football. But, only 7.5 fantasy points, 65 yards. Him and Montgomery both did terribly, but Gibbs has a lot higher expectation than Montgomery does fantasy wise. So, he's going to take that spot there. But yeah, very, very bad week for fantasy running back. So, if you're one of those people that had, a running back actually go off, good for you, because a lot of people's running backs really stunk it up this week. Now moving on to the playoff check-in. Yeah, as I said, to start, the New England Patriots right now are the 4 seed in the AFC currently. They're 4-2 right now. Obviously, the Bills losing their second straight game on Monday Night Football to the Atlanta Falcons. They're gonna have some things they're gonna have to work out, because New England's looking real hot, and it is a possibility that the Patriots can win this division. And with the fact that this is happening so close to again the Patriots dynasty with Brady coming down. They already have it looks like they already have their franchise guy already in Drake May. Like, Drake May's been absolutely insane, as I said before. He's getting some weapons around him. Hopefully, they can continue to develop some of their younger guys, Travion Henderson specifically. But yeah, they've been looking great. They've been looking fantastic. We like the Colts are still atop of the AFC. They're currently 5-1. Pittsburgh Steelers are somehow right behind them. That entire division, man, the NFC North is looking rough. The Steelers actually, who are playing the Bengals in a division game on Thursday Night Football this week, they're the Steelers right now are the only team in the AFC North that has a above 500 record, which is insane. This team somehow finds a way every single year to stay competitive. This team is always making the playoffs. They might not do much once they get there, but they always are getting there. They're always a face that just shows up some way, somehow. There's some people who have been saying now that they just might need to blow it up and start over, but they're competing. They only have one loss so far on the year, and Aaron Rodgers has not looked that bad. Who has looked bad? The Cincinnati Bengals, which I mean we all already know, and the Baltimore Ravens, right now who are 1-5. They are now on a 4-game losing streak. Lamar Jackson obviously still out. Derrick Henry, has just not been great. A little better this past week, but, they still lost because they kind of suck. Like, their entire team is very banged up and hurt. We'll see, because they do have a bye coming up. That'll give Lamar another week of rest. That gives some of their guys some rest time. So, hopefully it's still very early in the year. Obviously, we're only, 6 weeks in, but, they're going to have to turn it around and turn it around fast because, they're looking like they might just completely miss the playoffs entirely. Like they're not sitting in a very good spot right now. They're 12th in the AFC as a whole. So, the AFC West, we got the Kansas City Chiefs have been looking absolutely amazing. They've looked great. A very convincing win over the Lions this past Sunday night. And, right now they're 3-3. They're still third in the AFC West behind the Broncos and Chargers, who the Broncos had one of the ugliest games of football Sunday morning in London. All those London games so far this year have absolutely sucked. None of them have been good. Not a single one entertaining in the slightest. But Kansas City, 500 right now. They're on a bit of a hot streak. Guess who they get back week 7? Rashid Rice is off of suspension, so that's Mahomes' guy. They're getting back a very important weapon for them. So the Kansas City Chiefs, man, everyone wants to count them out. Everyone wanted to absolutely just get on them, but they're still here, and they might not be a top seed in the AFC this season, but they're gonna be in the playoffs still and making noise. I mean, it is still very possible that they come away with the West. So I mean, that's something definitely to watch. Obviously, the Eagles now, just like the Bills, after starting 4-0, have lost now 2 straight, which a bit concerning. Especially with the way that some of these other teams are playing, especially in a divisional game, to lose 2 straight. Commanders are right behind them at 3-3 now with a healthy Jaden Daniels. Obviously the Packers are now ahead in the AFC North, in the NFC North, just ahead of the Lions and the Vikings. The Bears, who have looked pretty good, coming out of the bye, managed to steal one against the Commanders, even with Roma Doomsday not having as great of a game, but they managed to come out. They're looking pretty hot. So honestly, the NFC North has been one of the best divisions of football for a minute. So it's very possible that they can come away with the maybe not with the division, but they can definitely be second place. Especially if Detroit doesn't, work out some of their kinks. But yep. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have looked absolutely dominant. They have even with all the injuries, Baker Mayfield by far has to be the favorite for MVP. And sure enough, of course the actual media is listing Patrick Mahomes as the favorite, which is absolutely insane to me. Baker Mayfield has had so many injuries. No Bucky Irving the past 2 weeks, and Bucky Irving's still gonna miss time. Um, Emeka Buka, his star rookie receiver, has went out of this game with a hamstring injury, and he's gonna miss time. And he missed half of this game, and they still managed to come out with a win. Um, we had Mike Evans has been out again, also with a hamstring. Chris Godwin's been out. Like they've had a lot of injuries, and Baker Mayfield has still made it work. He's looked amazing. He's playing the best football of his career, which, especially after people saying some people saying that he would not repeat statistically what he did last season, which I thought was insane. Yeah, I personally, I think Baker Mayfield would be the MVP if the season ended today, and it just shows they're right now the number one seed in the NFC. So, they're sitting at 5-1 right now, right behind Green Bay, who again has that dumbass tie with the Cowboys. So, they're looking really hot. Especially Mike Evans should probably be back this week. Hopefully they get Bucky Irving back. Hopefully, Mbuka's injury isn't very serious, because all of his fantasy managers, including myself, would have a heart attack. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the NFL portion of this. For our parlay of the week, now this was not a great week for parlays, at least some of the ones I've seen. And I have one here for the Monday night game that did not hit. This was a plus 3,400, odds. So, this was a long shot anyway, but the lay in fact was Roma Dunze anytime touchdown, Luther Burden anytime touchdown, Bill Krosky Merritt for 50 rushing yards, which did hit, Roma Dunze for 50 receiving yards, and then Luther Burden for 25 receiving yards, which was the only other thing in this lay that did hit. Not a lot of scoring touchdowns for the Bears receivers, but especially the Luther Burden one. You know what? I'll just admit it. This was my parlay, and I really thought that Luther Burden, especially out of the bye week, would probably have a bigger game. But didn't find the end zone. And didn't find a starting spot on my fantasy team. He said he's gonna sit on the bench, but you know what? He's gonna be a locker room guy. You need to bring some people in like that for chemistry reasons. You got to do it. Got to do it. Yep. Moving on to the association. Thank God NBA basketball will be back next week. It is a beautiful thing. But some things that have come out recently. So obviously Bleacher Report put out their top 100 list for the NBA season, and some of it is not too bad. Honestly, their top 10 looks a lot like my top 10, at least like the players that are in it for the most part. Obviously, you got Jokic at 1, Shea at 2, Giannis at 3, Luka 4, got Steph at 5. This is not a crazy thing. The real thing that I've seen personally online from a lot of people is Wembanyama at 6, which apparently a lot of fans are not happy with. He is ranked just above Anthony Edwards, and LeBron James, who follows at 8. But yeah, him at 6 apparently is not fantastic to a lot of, and like, he is a third-year guy who missed a lot of time last season after the blood clot. But I mean, before the injury, he looked absolutely phenomenal. Like, he was definitely the runaway for Rookie of the Year, and the Spurs might have been in the play-in mix, had he played the rest of the season out. But such is life. But him being ranked 6 apparently, especially above like Ant, was a thing that I saw a lot of fans not upset, and it's pretty understandable. Like, Anthony Edwards has definitely proven himself especially over the last 2 seasons. Averaged 27, 5 and 5 last year, made his second straight conference finals after the Timberwolves traded Cat, which some people said was a terrible move. Well, why would you break up a team that just made the conference finals? But they made their second straight conference finals appearance. But again, in the conference finals, getting pieced up this time by the Oklahoma City Thunder, who eventually went on to win the NBA championship. But again, Wembanyama, I think at 6 is fine. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people a little upset about is Kevin Durant not being in the top 10. Kevin Durant is ranked 11th on Bleacher Report's list right now, which I mean, he is 37, but he's still a hooper. Kevin Durant is ranked right behind Jalen Brunson, who is in the top, who's ranked 10th, Donovan Mitchell, and LeBron. And it's the LeBron one. The people are saying that Kevin Durant is better than LeBron James at this point. I disagree with that, but I mean, LeBron himself has been apparently LeBron is set to miss at least the first month of the season. Um, he probably isn't going to be returning until about mid-November, from what sources say. Which I mean gives Luka a lot of chances to win, to maybe make some MVP campaign before LeBron comes back. He's definitely due for one at some point, especially being in a big market like LA. He'll like he should get one. He should get one unless Shea just puts up another insane season or Jokic does Jokic things. But uh, I mean, I don't most. I think most of the complaining has to be with some people, maybe a little lower on this list, like not all the way. Like I think most of the top 20 is pretty good for the most part. I don't have much of a problem with it. But yeah, speaking about LeBron James in particular, there's I've seen some funny things, some funny clips, and things about LeBron, because obviously when is it LeBron in the media? The NBA revolves around him. The NBA, ESPN and Bleacher Report are really going to be starved for content once LeBron retires. There was a post about Mikel. Who was it? No, I am bugging. Malcolm Brogdon, who is in the Knicks guard, Malcolm Brogdon, who is retiring after 9 seasons in the association. And tell me why people. The first thing that comes out from ESPN, in Bleacher Report, is the fact that the 20 who and Brogdon did win Rookie of the Year in 2017. The 2017 Rookie of the Year retired before the 2004 Rookie of the Year, which of course is LeBron James. And under that post, I did see a comment that did say LaMortal. Obviously, LeBron, most memeable name of all time, but it is just funny. I didn't even put out a little appreciation post for him or anything first before immediately just making the LeBron jokes. But thus is NBA media, and you know what? Like NBA media, I'm gonna introduce a little thing on this show called LeBron memes moments, and this is gonna be dedicated to mostly shouting out all of the funny, very funny memes of LeBron James's name that I have noticed on social media in the past week. And this week we had a lot, because not only did we have the Lamordo for that retirement post, but there was also a post about LeBron speaking about his financial advisor, and about how, if LeBron ever like messed up with if he ever like misplaced money, or kind of like tried to steal money from him or something like that, there'd be some consequence, like, which sounded very threatening. But yeah, just what, we're gonna play some nice music here, and some fun music, and we're just gonna name off some of these names right here. uh, Starting off, La Threat, no, La Promise, La Don't Play About the Paper, La Surge Night. I didn't really get that one. This one's good. La Make 'Em Disappear, La Gunpoint, La More Money, More Problems, and finally La Consequences. And that has wrapped up the LeBron meme segment for this week. But yeah, no, LeBron James, man, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a way different NBA once he's gone. Who are we gonna make fun of anymore? Like, there's no one that's fun to make fun of like there is LeBron. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Again, if anyone has you guys have managed to listen this far, to me talk, I appreciate it. Again, I don't really like listening to myself talk for this long either. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed, obviously please share with people. Follow the podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok at the Lunchroom 22. I really want to start using the Instagram and TikTok for more things. I want to start using it for more stuff. So, and then for that to happen, I need people to start following. So, if you could give that a follow, that'd be really appreciated. But yep, until next time, I'll catch you. Peace.